we agreed he'd come to the halfway point, leave his bike there, get in the car, drive up to where he had to do this test, and then come back and pick up his bike and be on his way. What did you have to do, Ben? You had to swim, carry weights, or what? Tell us what it was. Come on up here and tell us.
Well, the first thing, I had called up the civil service and told them I was doing this thing earlier last week, and I wanted to kind of go through this thing in a hurry. And what you have to do to become a fireman is take a written test. Now, the written test was held on the day of the Ironman this year, and this is the first time on this island that I wasn't able to do the Ironman because I was trying to become a fireman, trying to set my priorities. But I did run with someone in the Ironman that was doing that. And so I took the written, and if you pass the written, then you can take the physical test. And the physical test consisted of a 12-minute run, and you had to complete 12 laps. And well, I kept going, and I did about almost 7. And I'd done the test last year, and I hadn't ridden 80 miles beforehand, and I did 8 laps the last time. And after the 7 laps, I was really hurting. And then the next thing you had to do was you had to carry a tackling dummy, a 150-pound tackling dummy, and carry it up 20 feet and then carry it back. And that might not seem like much, but after what I'd gone through already, I was really sweating. And then you went to the hose bundle carry, and you pick up a 70-pound hose and go up a flight of stairs and run around a hallway and back down the stairway and put the hose down. And you have to make all these certain time limits, and they were fairly reasonable time limits for all these things, but it was really strenuous for me. And then you hop over into the Hilo pool and you swim 100 for time, and that's the only one they time you on. They write down your time, and I usually can go under a minute for 100, and it was really hard for me to make a 107, and that's what I did on the 100 swim for that. And Jay, one of the photographers, happened to be there and maybe get some PR for it. He went back and photographed me carrying the hose. It was quite an experience.
What was Kurt Madden doing all this time?
He was probably sleeping in Kohala by then. And I just wanted to tell a funny story about the first time I ever had any kind of dealing with Kurt. I don't know if he remembers it or not. It was on the first Ironman they had here, and Kurt and I have this relationship. Like, I'm kind of a wayward soul, and he's like the uncle that's trying to help me out. And the first time I met Kurt, he was a swim coordinator at the swim, and I come off the pier, and I didn't know there was an entry deadline for the Ironman. I just arrived in Hawaii, and I just jumped in, and Kurt grabs me and he goes, "Where's your number?" And I go, I'm just doing it unofficially. And blankety, 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 blankety. And little by little, he'd see me around. I ended up staying here and I didn't go back for about 3 years. And he ended up seeing me, and we kind of interacted more and more and became good friends. And that was just a little story I wanted to share with you. And I also wanted to share one other story with someone who's not here, had to leave early, Terry Ives, who made a really exciting day for me on the second day of the bike ride. And I'm sure some of you might have heard this story, but I thought I'd share it with you because it added a little bit of excitement to it all. We all know how the weather was coming down Kohala Mountain on Saturday, and I had caught Terry Ives. He's 49 years old, and he went by me as I was putting on my 3rd layer of clothes at the top of the mountain. And all he had on was this really ugly ski shirt. And he was going down this mountain, and I go, I'm going to go catch him. And I caught him, and I thought, oh, I'll just get way ahead of him. And so I just pedaled as hard as I could, and I thought, oh, he's way back there. And I looked back behind me, and this is a vivid picture I'll always remember. Terry had drool coming out of his mouth, coming down his face, and his eyes were bulging out of his head. He's 49 years old, and I'm sitting here racing him, and his support crew was behind me, and I'm just going like this to the support crew. And about 5 minutes later, we came to the S-curves, the famous S-curves in North Kohala, and I said, Terry, these curves are kind of tricky, so you got to be careful on them. And I'm familiar with the road because that's where I live, and I go, shh, 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 and Terry tries to catch up with me, takes the first one a little wide, then comes back. And I looked back, and I didn't see him come out of the turn, and I saw the support vehicle stop, and I go, oh no, and I saw this picture of, oh, poor Terry, and I rode back up there, and he's lying there, his feet are up in the air, and his hands are over his face, and his daughter's there. His daughter was his sole support crew, and we're checking him out, and he ended up to be okay, and it was an exciting moment. He ran into the bank. There was luckily a grass bank, and he had grass hanging out of his clip down here on his thing. We straightened out. We put his wheels back. Made sure his wheels were straight, and we put him back on, and he hobbled down the hill, and I think he deserves the Wild Man Award. And I was telling this to some people at the finish line area, and then Terry comes hobbling in, and he goes, "That was bitchin', man!" And so I was just wanted to mention this little story. I thought everybody might like to hear that.
Hey, thanks, Ben. That was great.